up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. So how many of you guys remember the old saying that Jay-Z made famous when he said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie? Well, apparently, throughout 2 weeks of Cleveland Browns training camp, the numbers don't even matter because Shedeur Sanders has been the best quarterback out of the four that the Browns currently have on their team. Throughout 2 weeks of training camp, Shedeur has led all of the Browns quarterbacks in completion percentage, completing 70% of his passes. He's thrown the most touchdowns and no interceptions. Somehow, though, he still is stuck being the fourth quarterback on the depth chart and taking the least amount of first-team reps out of the four QBs locked in this ongoing quarterback battle. Normally, when you have a quarterback that has performed so well, that has looked so efficient, he's in the conversation to be the starting quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, it's a different situation for him, though. The reason why Shedeur is still QB4 for Cleveland has nothing to do with his performance on the field. Because if the numbers don't lie, then they show that Shedeur Sanders is not only the best quarterback that the Browns have at the moment, but he also should be the front runner to be the starting quarterback week one during the regular season. But why is this not the case, though? Why is it that despite how spectacular Shedeur Sanders has performed in training camp, he still is slotted as QB4? Politics. Do you know what bad teams do? They, instead of starting the better player, they choose the player that they want to start based on optics, right? Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett are veteran QBs, but neither one of those guys at the current state that both of them are in their career are better than Shedeur Sanders. Based off the numbers, Shedeur Sanders has outperformed Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. Kenny Pickett has been nothing more but a bona fide backup quarterback at this point in his career. Joe Flacco, the glory days are over. He has to retire sooner rather than later. The Browns are hoping to strike gold on the end of the rainbow twice, because since Joe Flacco led them to the playoffs 2 years ago, they think that he can do it again, which I strongly doubt. You're trying to recapture magic with Joe Flacco that simply isn't there. Your hope for Kenny Pickett is that he can have a redemption arc that Sam Darnold had with the Vikings last season, when the difference between the two is that one is more talented and more athletic than the other. Sam Darnold has a really good arm. He's a really good athlete. Kenny Pickett is the complete polar opposite of that. Kenny Pickett may be the least athletic quarterback in the NFL right now. He doesn't have a single athletic bone in his body, and he has a weak arm. Dylan Gabriel being quarterback 3 over Shedeur Sanders right now, when he has had the lowest completion percentage out of any quarterback in Browns training camp right now. He's thrown the most interceptions, has somehow gotten 43 more pass attempts, 43 more pass reps than what Shedeur has. Why? Because of politics. The Browns don't want to accept that Shedeur Sanders is the more superior quarterback than what Dylan Gabriel is. Shedeur, coming out of college, was better than Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel just looked better in the eyes of the people who didn't watch the film, because they have the misconception that I have to clear up, that because Dylan Gabriel won more games than Shedeur, that means he was the better quarterback. Do you not know how stupid you sound trying to justify who's a better quarterback off a team achievement, winning games is what teams do, not what quarterbacks do, what teams do. Oregon had one of the most expensive teams in college football last year. Of course, Dylan Gabriel was going to put up good numbers. Do we forget Stetson Bennett, who was a walk-on quarterback for Georgia, won back-to-back national championships? You don't have to be a good quarterback to win in college football. I'd rather take the guy who turned around a program that before he arrived only won one game. I'd rather take the quarterback that delivered the university that he played for their second winning season in over 2 decades. Everywhere Shedeur Sanders has gone, he's won. He's dominated. He was the most accurate quarterback in the history of college football. And we've seen that translate over to the NFL because who has been the most accurate quarterback in Browns training camp up to this point? Shedeur Sanders. But instead of the Cleveland Browns giving more reps to Shedeur Sanders, who has been the better quarterback out of the bunch, they choose to play politics. They have to justify their reasoning for drafting Shedeur Sanders 5th and taking Dylan Gabriel ahead of him in the 3rd round, when taking Dylan Gabriel in round 3 was a reach anyway. Dylan Gabriel at his best is a low-end stopgap quarterback. He's undersized, he has a weak arm, and he doesn't have to acquire athleticism to succeed as a sub-6-foot quarterback in the NFL. When you think of some of the smallest quarterbacks that have played in the league that have had success, they've had either elite athleticism, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, or they were incredibly accurate. Dylan Gabriel is none of those things. I thought that Dylan Gabriel was a perfect match for the Miami Dolphins to back up Tua because he's a great value brand version of Tua. But going to a team that plays in cold weather with no dome, it's just an easy recipe for failure for him. He is not a franchise quarterback. But the Browns don't want to admit that they're wrong about Dylan Gabriel, so they have to continue to force him to be something that he's not, which is better than Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is obviously a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. The numbers throughout the first 2 weeks in training camp right now support that. What Shedeur Sanders did in college with a way worse team than what Dylan Gabriel had support that. Shedeur Sanders has been the best quarterback of all of the ones the Browns currently have in this quarterback competition based off what the numbers say. You can't say the numbers don't lie, but that only doesn't apply to Shedeur Sanders. They're trying to demean how good he is. He was a projected first, second round selection. The talent is there. Where you get drafted does not define how good of a player you are. And if the Browns truly are having an open quarterback competition, like how they claim this would be before training camp started, then Shedeur should be getting the same amount of reps, the same amount of opportunities as what everybody else is. But he's not. Why? Because of politics. This is what bad organizations do. Instead of starting the best player, instead of starting the guy who has been miles better than everybody else, the Browns choose to play games. They choose to start Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett with the first string, and Shedeur Sanders gets what's left of the scraps. That's what the Browns are doing with Shedeur Sanders. They're just throwing him scraps. Everybody else has made their plate. Everybody else is at the table eating good. Shedeur has to wait for everybody else to get their plate, to get all of the food, and then they leave him with what's left of the crumbs. Shedeur Sanders can't beat the Browns' politics. I'm rooting for Shedeur to win this job. I truly am, but based off how this competition is going, we're entering into week 1 of the preseason. I strongly doubt that Shedeur will get an opportunity to start this year unless the Browns owner forces their hand to do so. And by doing that, that would be the best decision that Jimmy Haslam has ever made. You have no choice but to force their hand if you're Jimmy Haslam and tell Kevin Stefanski to do the right thing, stop blackballing Shedeur Sanders, and start him. He's the better of the 3 quarterbacks. The numbers support that. I'm more concerned what's going to happen when the preseason starts. How is it going to look for Shedeur? With him being QB4 right now, he's going to get thrown in with only 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter against guys that aren't more than likely going to make the roster or going to be practice squad guys, which is a bad situation for Shedeur Sanders because it's nearly impossible to put up good numbers when everybody else is playing with better players on the second and third team, like what Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett are going to have the opportunity to get. Shedeur won't be afforded that same opportunity because the Browns don't care about the numbers. The numbers don't lie. That's true. But they are being ignored by Cleveland because if the numbers actually mattered to them, Shedeur Sanders, they would know by this point it's the best quarterback and the guy who should be leading this competition to be their week 1 starter. If you don't want the starting quarterback of your favorite team to play like Anthony Richardson, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check us out, JT Sports, on all podcasting platforms. Give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Let's get back to the video. A year ago, back during my final semester in college, I was watching Super Bowl 58. It was me, my homie Paris, and a homeboy Rio. We were watching the Super Bowl. It was the rematch between the 49ers and the Chiefs. And we were at his crib. We had a few drinks. We had some gas rolled up. And before the game kicked off, Rio asked me and my homie Paris who we had winning the game. We both told him we had money on Patrick Mahomes. And he kind of laughed and he said, I got $1,000 on the 49ers. And we kind of laughed at him and said, man, you're betting against Patrick Mahomes? I don't know how that's going to work out. The last guy you want to bet against is the boogeyman. There are 2 quarterbacks in my lifetime watching football that teams absolutely had anxiety when they had to stop them from winning the game. Tom Timothy Brady and Patrick Mahomes. So Super Bowl 58 kicks off. The Chiefs go into halftime down 10-3. And Rio's feeling really good about his bet. At halftime, he's gloating. He's saying, yeah, the 49ers are about to run away with this. This isn't going to be close. And me and Paris are looking at Rio, and we're just laughing at him. We're scoffing at him. We're telling him, you must have just started watching football, because the Chiefs being down at halftime is nothing new to them. Patrick Mahomes, if anything, he plays better when he's trailing. So what happened once halftime came around? The Chiefs end up taking control of the game. They get the lead. Now, somehow in the fourth quarter, the 49ers were able to come back, and the Chiefs had to kick a field goal to send it into overtime. But this is when you saw the separation between Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy played really well in this Super Bowl. He didn't play bad. The only issue is he wasn't one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. What do the greats do in high-pressure moments? They find ways to win despite all of the odds seemingly against them, right? So the 49ers get possession the first drive of overtime. They drive downfield, and they get put in a crucial moment. This was the moment that not only defined the game, but it also showed why everybody has anxiety when they go up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It's 4th and 4. Tony Romo is screaming to Jim Nantz, They got to go for it. You can't give Patrick Mahomes, the boogeyman, an opportunity to win the game. You can't kick a field goal here. Tony Romo is literally pleading with the 49ers to go for it. What do? They kick the field goal, and that right there sealed their fate because they did what nobody should ever do. They committed the biggest sin that you can make when you go up against Patrick Mahomes, which is give him an opportunity to win the game. Because what does Patrick Mahomes do? He ends up driving downfield. There's a huge 4th-and-1 situation, right? And my homie Rio, who has $1,000 on the 49ers winning this thing, he's feeling really confident. Me and Paris were asking him, you think that the 49ers are going to be able to get them off the field here? He's like, oh, yeah. And I'm asking him, 1 through 10, how confident are you? He says 100 out of 10. I said, okay. And you can see it in his eyes. He truly believed it. He believed that Nick Bosa was going to blow the play up behind the line of scrimmage. It was going to win the Super Bowl for the 49ers. And what happens? 4th-and-1. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, they hit them with a read option that nobody saw coming. And they executed this read option to pure perfection. You could tell that they were sitting on this play all season long, holding it for this exact moment in this exact game because the entire 49ers defense completely collapsed on the running back. They gave Patrick Mahomes that window. And what's underrated about Patrick Mahomes is how savvy of a runner he is. He's not Lamar or Josh Allen, but if you give him a little bit of green grass, he's going to make you pay and make you pay dearly. And this play right here just completely sunk my homie Rio. You could see it in his eyes. You could see the anxiety. You could hear the heart pumping out of his chest. You could see his eyes getting wide, but his pupils getting dilated because he knew that that was the 49ers' best shot to win this game, and they were unable to get it done. And what does Patrick Mahomes proceed to do from that point on? Continue to drive the Chiefs down the field. They get to the 3-yard line of San Francisco. At that point, he was just leaning back in the chair like these because he already knew what time it was. Mahomes throws the game-winning touchdown pass, and that's all she wrote. It's funny to me how people think just because the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a few months ago, all of a sudden they've given away the blueprint to stopping Mahomes and the Chiefs. The secret is out, people. No, it's not. The Philadelphia Eagles beating the Chiefs, stopping Patrick Mahomes, had nothing to do with strategy. It took the Eagles assembling a God squad, assembling all the Infinity Stones to stop Patrick Mahomes from winning another Super Bowl, from being able to three-peat. Because the only time that Patrick Mahomes has lost in the Super Bowl has been when he has never had a shot to win it. When he got obliterated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady in 2020, the same way the Chiefs lost that game was the same way they lost the Super Bowl a few months ago to the Philadelphia Eagles. The offensive line got completely obliterated up front. And football is still a game that is won and lost on the line of scrimmage. So no matter how great you are as a quarterback, if your offensive line doesn't give you any time to throw the football, you're not going to have a shot to win. And what's strange is the only time Mahomes has lost in the biggest game of them all has been when he has gotten blown out. When you give Mahomes an opportunity to win the Super Bowl, he's always going to come through. And that's what should scare the NFL. That's what should give the NFL anxiety. Because guess what the Chiefs now have? A great offensive line. They drafted Josh Simmons in the first round of this past year's NFL draft. Josh Simmons, I got to get it right because I know Chiefs fans get really agitated with me mispronouncing names. The Chiefs getting Josh Simmons completely changes everything for them. Now this is a team that could very well win 3 more Super Bowls with him at the helm. When you have a franchise left tackle, it completely changes the entirety of your offense. With the receivers that the Chiefs have, Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals, there's a lot of speed that they now have at this position that's going to allow them to get back to the offense that they were running when they had Tyreek Hill, when they can just bomb you downfield play after play now because they have the offensive line that allows them to do so. The Eagles beating the Chiefs did not give the rest of the NFL the cheat code to stopping Patrick Mahomes. If you have Harry Roseman as your general manager and you can assemble the Avengers, then okay, then yeah, but that's not realistic. Not every team has a Harry Roseman. There are a lot of teams that suck at drafting, that suck at roster construction. The only way you can beat Mahomes is if you just have a team that flat out can outpower him. But when the playing field is leveled, Mahomes is going to kill you. He's going to stab the knife through your stomach, through your heart every single time. He's going to take your soul out of your body betting against them. Patrick Mahomes is inevitable unless you have all 5 Infinity Stones against them. Look at what it took the Philadelphia Eagles to do to beat Mahomes their second go-around. The last time when they played, when the teams were evenly matched and they were level talent-wise, who won that Super Bowl? The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes did. And what's strange is that even when the Chiefs have won in the Super Bowl, I don't believe that Patrick Mahomes has necessarily played his best football, but he saves his best football for last, which is what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady and Mahomes, their last breath is their best breath because they make it count. To when you give them opportunity to win the game, you know it's already lost. The Chiefs could very well win the Super Bowl for another decade every single year. As unrealistic as it seems for that to happen, because it seems like something that could only occur in Madden, at this point, I can't count out anything. Everything is on the table when it comes to Kansas City. I don't know truly when Kansas City won't make it to the AFC. I'm not sure that they won't make it to the Super Bowl this year. A few weeks ago, I was convinced that the Ravens were going to get it done until I saw Josh Simmons completely obliterating everybody that he's lining up against in training camp. The NFL gave Kansas City the last thing that they didn't need in order to cement their team being in the Super Bowl for the next decade, which was a franchise left tackle. And because of that, the playing field is now level. Now, Patrick Mahomes isn't going to go into any Super Bowl like how he did a few months ago, completely outmatched. And history shows when you give Patrick Mahomes an opportunity to win with not too big of a talent disadvantage, he will make you pay. And that's why the NFL should be extremely nervous. That's why the NFL should have anxiety right now. When you look at the Chiefs' losses, the only time they won is when they had completely no chance to do so. That has completely changed now with what they have and Josh Simmons at left tackle, everybody that they have at wide receiver. I wouldn't be shocked to see Patrick Mahomes win another Super Bowl and win another MVP this year. The Falcons are winning the NFC South this year. They should have won this division last year, but they didn't for 2 reasons. One, Kirk Cousins was selfish. He put himself before the team. He tried to play through an injury that he had no business playing through because he was scared of Michael Penix taking the job from him and him being unable to get it back. So he essentially threw the NFC South title away to the Buccaneers. And secondly, the Falcons defense was downright atrocious. Under Jimmy Lake, who was their defensive coordinator last year, they had a bend but don't break philosophy that allowed opposing offenses to just dink and dump their way downfield against this Falcons defense. This season, however, the Falcons' improved defense is going to be the main catalyst for the Falcons winning the NFC South this year. This is a defense that's going to have the ability to suffocate you like a boa constrictor. They're going to be able to wrap themselves around the opposing offense and completely suck the oxygen out of them. Because with Jeff Ulbrich taking over as their new defensive coordinator, who is emphasizing a fast, violent defense, you're going to see more aggressiveness. And with more aggressiveness, you're going to see a pass rush that ranked 31st in sacks, that was 30th in pressure rate last season, greatly improved with the signing of Leonard Floyd, a guy who has had at least 8 sacks or more for 5 straight seasons, is going to help improve that. You drafted 2 of the most explosive pass rushers coming out of the 2025 NFL draft, and Jalen Walker and James Pierce, who should be instant impact rookies. Both of these guys should be able to give the Falcons at least 7 sacks this year. You got Arnold Ebiketie, who could be in for a huge jump after he had a breakout season leading the team with 6.5 sacks last year. Braylon Trice returns. He suffered an ACL injury in the Falcons' first preseason game last year. He was a 3rd-round pick in the 24 NFL draft out of Washington. I was a huge fan of Braylon Trice when he was coming out, and he was expected to have a pretty big role on this Falcons defense last season. He was splitting time between the second and first team defense, and with how Matt Judon was just completely ineffective the majority of times, it was pretty fair to expect Braylon Trice to get significant action. He's back now. With the Falcons having this much depth when it comes to their pass rush, you're going to see them be a lot better at getting offenses off the field in 3rd down situations. It's no longer going to be an automatic 1st down when you get into 3rd down scenarios against the Falcons anymore, due to the improvement that they've made with addressing their biggest issue, that being the pass rush. Now that the Falcons have a core amount of guys that can be good starters, along with good depth, guys that they can rotate in and out to keep guys fresh throughout the course of the game, the Falcons defense is going to greatly improve this year, mainly because of them addressing the biggest weakness that they had last year. I'm not saying that the Falcons are going to go from being one of the worst teams at getting after the quarterback, being one of the worst teams in 3rd down situations, to becoming a top 5, top 10 defense, but they don't need their defense to be that good in order to win this division. They just need their defense to stop the bleeding, which they were unable to do last year. You can't win having a bend but don't break mentality in this league anymore. You have to be able to stop teams from dinking and dumping. That's why the importance of hiring Jeff Ulbrich, who's emphasizing playing fast and playing violent, is going to help this defense take a huge step up this season, because now quarterbacks aren't going to be able to just throw a bunch of short passes and just find a way to get themselves in a scoring position, because now you're going to have a defense that can get after you. Quarterbacks that played the Falcons last year got the ball out faster than any other team that anybody went up against. When you played the Falcons defense, you knew that if you got the ball out fast, you were driving downfield, because the Falcons prioritized themselves on letting you get whatever. And then once you got into the red zone area, that's when they tried to make their presence felt on defense, and it failed. And it failed really bad. This season, that's not the mentality. It's no longer bend but don't break. No, the philosophy is we're going to come after you. We're going to attack you. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to force turnovers. We're going to force a bunch of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. We're going to be able to cause a lot of havoc to put you in unmanageable third down situations. Can we get you into third and long? Can we blow up plays behind the line of scrimmage on second down? Those are the questions that the Falcons are trying to answer entering this season, and I believe they're going to be able to have the solution to. Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman were two of the biggest steals of the NFL draft for the Atlanta Falcons. These two guys were the gems of this past draft class for general manager Terry Fontenot. Xavier Watts was a two-time All-American at Notre Dame. Great ball skills, incredible instincts. He had 13 interceptions that he racked up over his final 2 seasons starting for the Fighting Irish. Elite coverage ability. You pair him next to Jesse Bates, you can make the argument that with Xavier Watts, the Falcons are going to have a top 3 safety duo with him and Jesse Bates. You got Billy Bowman in the 4th round, who has great ball skills. He's great inside the box. He just has a nose for making plays against both the run and the pass. He's projected to be the Falcons' starting slot corner. At least he should be starting over D. Alford, because he's a better player than what D. Alford is, because he can stop against the run, and you can line him up, bracket him in coverage against tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. This Atlanta Falcons tandem of Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman is going to be a huge catalyst for this secondary improving in their level of play. They already have A.J. Terrell, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. You already have a Jesse Bates, an all-pro safety, one of the best players in the NFL. Not just one of the best at his position, but one of the best overall players in the league. And now you add 2 stud defensive backs to what was already a pretty solid secondary. Now you take your secondary from solid to very good. Now you're going to be able to slow down Baker Mayfield. You're going to be able to keep Bryce Young, the midget at quarterback, from doing what he did to you during the Carolina Panthers Super Bowl of last season, which was the final week of the regular season when they hung 40 on you. You're not going to have too many teams with average to below average quarterback play putting up the kind of production that quarterbacks did last season. This Falcons defense is really good heading into this season. They have addressed an issue that has plagued them for a very long time, with a secondary that has struggled and the pass rush that has been non-existent since Jonathan Abram was in his prime. You got to be an OG Falcons fan to remember who Jonathan Abram was. I'm really convinced that this Falcons defense is going to be vastly improved from what they were last season. And it's one of the big reasons why I'm picking this team to win the NFC South title this year. I got a rare question that was sent to me in the DMs on X. If you have any questions that you would like answered on a future episode, go ahead, follow me on X at JTSports__ and DM me your questions. Now, the question that was asked was, JT, how are the Jaguars going to use Travis Hunter, and how good do you think his rookie season is going to be? Now, to answer the first part of that question, primarily, I expect for Travis Hunter to get more snaps on offense at receiver than what he will get playing defense at corner. Liam Cohen, the Jaguars' new head coach, was the Buccaneers' offensive coordinator last year. So this is a offensive-minded head coach. And with the lofty price that the Jaguars have to pay to trade up to take Travis Hunter in the draft, it would make a lot of sense that an offensive-minded head coach would want to utilize Travis Hunter more on offense. The way that Liam Cohen is more than likely going to get Travis Hunter involved is with a bunch of quick passes, bubble screens, jet sweeps. He'll target him a lot on intermediate throws, 15, 20 yards downfield. And when you have Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas both on the field together, you'll have one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL, which helps Trevor Lawrence take that big step that he has been unable to take since his second season in the NFL when he led the Jaguars to the AFC South title and a playoff win over the Los Angeles Chargers. When you're throwing to a player as gifted as what Travis Hunter is, with his great ball skills, the body control that he has that's going to allow him to win positioning on a bunch of 50-50 balls, having a playmaker like Travis Hunter makes life as a play caller for Liam Cohen a lot easier, which is why it makes sense for Travis Hunter to get more snaps at receiver than what he will get on defense. Now, when Travis Hunter does get reps on defense and he does get inserted into the lineup as a corner, his role is going to involve him coming in primarily in third down situations, obvious passing downs, and in the red zone. With Travis Hunter's ball skills and his high football IQ, the red zone is really where Travis Hunter's unique abilities on defense is going to come into play. Because in Colorado's first game under Dylan Sanders 2 years ago against TCU, Travis Hunter had this spectacular red zone interception where essentially he was covering two guys at once. He was playing his zone. He was able to see the route that was coming his way. He completely bailed on his assignment and made an incredible leaping interception. With the kind of ball skills and instincts that Travis Hunter possesses at corner, no quarterback is going to want to look his way in the red zone, because that pretty much is a death sentence. When you have a condensed field, that's when Travis Hunter is going to thrive. Because at that point, athleticism and ball skills completely takes over. With the kind of leaping ability that he has, making all kinds of interceptions that you only would see on Madden, you're not going to want to target Travis Hunter in the red zone. You're going to have to go elsewhere. Maybe not even try to target him at all. You're better off running the ball than you are throwing it against the Jaguars this year when Travis Hunter is on the field. When it comes to the third down situations, though, however, Travis Hunter, you'll see him playing a little bit of slot corner. He'll also play boundary corner as well. Yeah, him playing against some of the better receivers like a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson doesn't incredibly thrill you. With him playing both ways, you wonder if he's going to have the conditioning to sustain going up against some of the best on both sides of the football. But having him come in on third down situations, depending on the yardage to go and second down, you bring him in there as well. You're going to have to give him some kind of breather. But Travis Hunter does have the cardio to play both ways in the NFL. If anything, the NFL game greatly benefits Travis Hunter playing both ways more than it did in college, because the college game is a faster pace than what the NFL is. Not in terms of how fast the plays go in the NFL, but in terms of the amount of times that you have between plays to catch your breath. In college, the average play call is coming from the sideline within 15, 20 seconds. In the NFL, unless it's a 2-minute situation or a team's going no huddle to get back into the game near the end of the fourth quarter, Travis Hunter has a few more seconds to catch his breath. The NFL also runs 23, 26 less plays on average than what they do in college. And let's not forget that Travis Hunter played in Boulder, Colorado. In the state of Colorado as a whole, they have a higher elevation from anybody else in the country, which makes it more difficult to breathe than anywhere else. Travis Hunter was playing both ways, where the altitude was high, where it was harder to get oxygen, which has prepared him to play both ways successfully in the National Football League. His last 2 years at Colorado were nothing but training him and preparing him to dominate successfully both ways in the National Football League. I believe that Travis Hunter in his rookie season is going to have over 1,100 receiving yards, 70 catches for 10 touchdowns. On defense, he's going to lead the league in interceptions with 6 and he's going to have 3 out of 6 of those interceptions taken back for pick sixes. He'll win offensive and defensive rookie of the year and MVP as well. Because if you're winning both offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year, you essentially have proven that you are the most valuable player on your team. And that's what MVP stands for, most valuable player, right? So how could you not give Travis Hunter the award when he has pulled off something that has never been done in the history of the NFL? A guy who has been able to impact the game on both sides of the ball. Travis Hunter, his impact playing both ways far exceeds the impact of having a quarterback, because the quarterback is the only player who touches the ball every snap not named center. Travis Hunter would be the complete opposite of that. He would be the first two-way player to successfully dominate both ways, 2 different positions on opposing sides of the football, which would be something that the NFL has never seen before. And when there's something that has never been done before, you have to honor that with MVP, because that's what MVP is for. You'll have to take the record out of the window. You have to take the Jaguars' success out of the window, and you would single-handedly have to admit that Travis Hunter has made what was believed to be impossible possible, being able to dominate both two ways in the NFL. So that's how I believe that Travis Hunter's rookie season is going to play out to answer this question. Will the Philadelphia Eagles become the next dynasty in the NFL? I don't see any reasons to say why they can't. Howie Roseman is a top 3 general manager in NFL history. The guy just does not miss in the draft. He just is able to find value all throughout the draft. No matter what round he's picking in, he just somehow is able to find high-level players. He makes really good trades, really good free agency signings. The Eagles have one of the youngest defenses, one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Their defense, the majority of their best players on it are on rookie deals. On offense, you already have the best offensive line in football. Most of those guys are going to be able to play for at least the next half a decade at the bare minimum. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both in their prime. Jalen Hurts is playing as good as football as anybody else. He's arguably the most consistent playoff performer in the league, other than Patrick Mahomes. Saquon Barkley, coming off a 2,000-yard campaign, he still has a few more years of prime football left in the tank. So at least for the next 5-6 year stretch, the Eagles could do what the Dallas Cowboys did during the late 80s, early 90s, when they had Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. The way the Eagles are constructed right now reminds me a lot of how those really good Cowboy teams were constructed when they were somewhat of a dynasty during the Troy Aikman years. The only roadblock in the Philadelphia Eagles' way of becoming a dynasty and winning 2-3 more Super Bowls within the next 5 years is Sean McVay. Because just like the Philadelphia Eagles, Sean McVay has a really good young team with a young defense that has a bunch of good players on rookie deals, such as Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk. On offense, Matthew Stafford. Even when he does retire, you have to believe that the Rams already have a contingency plan in place, possibly eyeing getting Arch Manning. Puka Nacua is one of the best receivers in the league. Kyron Williams is one of the better running backs in the league as well. The Rams have a really good offensive line. And with the genius and innovative play calling of Sean McVay, the Rams are going to be going toe-to-toe with the Eagles for the NFC for at least the foreseeable future. So if the Eagles are going to become the next dynasty in the NFL, they have to get through Sean McVay. And that's a really tough ask, because just like the Eagles, the Rams do a really incredible job at drafting. They do a really good job of finding value no matter what round they're picking in the draft. They have really good player development. They make really good trades. They make really solid free agency signings as well. So the gap between Philadelphia and the Rams is not really that big. There is a gap. I'm not trying to not acknowledge that, but it's not as wide as what you may believe it to be. We very well could see the Rams take down the Eagles for the NFC Championship and make it back to the Super Bowl this year. But the Eagles, with how their roster is constructed, with how Harry Roseman just never seems to ever miss in the draft, if the Eagles can overcome Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams, we very much could see them become the new dynasty in the NFL. They already have shown the ability to beat Patrick Mahomes. Why can't they do it again if they see him again 2-3 years from now? Why can't the Eagles win back-to-back Super Bowls? Why can't the Eagles win 3-4 more rings within a 5, 6, 7 year span? Because the talent is there. You have a bunch of young guys in their prime. You only have to overcome Sean McVay because he's really the only big threat in the NFC right now. Yeah, you have quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels who are starting to emerge, but Jaden Daniels, I don't feel, is in a situation with the Commanders to believe that he's going to have the kind of star power that the Eagles have to be able to get past Philly. The 49ers, their best days might be behind them under Kyle Shanahan. Maybe they've already peaked under him. So really the only thing in the NFC that stands in the Eagles' way of becoming the new dynasty is the Rams, because that's really the only equal that they have in that conference. In the AFC, somebody else not named Kansas City is eventually going to make it out of that thing. Rather it be Joe Burrow again, Lamar, Josh Allen, maybe Bo Nix or CJ Stroud finally break through. Who knows? But even then, the only team out of the AFC that rivals Philadelphia in talent is Baltimore. They draft really well. They've always drafted really well. We know how good Lamar Jackson is as a quarterback. The question is, can he just put together a good 4-game stretch to win a Super Bowl? So the Eagles, they have a pretty good gap among the rest of the competition in the NFL to where I wouldn't put it past them winning 3-4 more Super Bowls within the next couple of years. I definitely could see them becoming a new dynasty as long as they can get past Sean McVay. That's really the only thorn in their side that they have to worry about. I'm excited to rank for you guys the 10 offenses that the NFL has no answers for entering this season. These are my projections for who the top 10 offenses in the league will be this year. Starting with the Denver Broncos at number 10. They don't have a bunch of household names on their offense, but they do have one of the best offensive minds in the history of the league, and Sean Payton getting Bo Nix for a second season. And Bo Nix statistically had the greatest rookie season ever, but it was overshadowed with how much success Jaden Daniels had in the postseason. Now, Bo Nix builds off what he did in year one. With Sean Payton calling the plays, he could be good enough to insert himself into the MVP conversation. It also helps that the Broncos have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They got a pretty formidable running back duo that defenses are going to have to account for when you take in that Bo Nix is also going to be a factor running the ball. You got J.K. Dobbins, who's coming off a comeback season with the Chargers, and R.J. Harvey was a day 2 selection out of UCF that Sean Payton is really high on, really good, making defenders miss. He's really good after contact. The Broncos at receiver, outside of Cortland Sutton, there's not a bunch of household names here, but look out for a rookie wideout, Pat Bryant out of Illinois, who could be an instant impact rookie for them right out the gate. He's a really good route runner, has really good size. He can win deep balls, and He can win those red zone one-on-ones for Denver. So there's a lot that you have to take into account when you're going up against this Broncos offense. Let's not forget about Evan Ingram, who is an underrated free agency signing. He's going to be that joker that Sean Payton loves, who he can just use as a versatile chess piece on this offense. He could have some of the best seasons of his career playing in Denver now that he has the best play caller that he's ever played with. At number 9, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. I have them rated a lot lower than what some of you guys probably would have them due to them losing their offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, to the Jaguars head coaching job. They're going to be on their third offensive coordinator in 3 years, so it's kind of hard to see the offense sustaining the level of success that they've had over the past 2 years with Dave Canales and Liam Cohen at the helm, but I'm not expecting that big of a drop-off with how much talent the Buccaneers have at receiver. This is the deepest receiving core in the NFL. From Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, they just have a bevy of riches for Baker Mayfield to throw the football to, which Baker Mayfield, let's talk about him. He's been absolutely balling out in Tampa these last couple of years. Last season was the best season of his career. He threw over 40 touchdowns. If he can get the turnover numbers down, he could become a top 6 quarterback in this league. The offensive line also is pretty good. Despite losing Tristan Wirfs for the first stretch of the season, they're going to be without him. But outside of that, there's really not too many weaknesses that the Buccaneers have on offense. Bucky Irving had a rookie season that nobody but me saw coming. He was my RB1 coming out of the 2024 draft class. Incredible vision, great contact balance. I expect him to have another 1,000-yard campaign. So the Buccaneers come in at number 9. At number 8, I got the Atlanta Falcons, which is going to be a surprise to a bunch of you all, but it really shouldn't be. They had a really good offense during the first half of 2024, but things went left when Kirk Cousins started being selfish, trying to play through an injury that he had no business playing through. He hurt the team. He threw away the NFC South title to the Buccaneers. With Michael Penix in, this offense is going to be more explosive when it comes to passing plays that result in 20 yards or more. In the 3 games that Michael Penix started in, he led all quarterbacks during that stretch and yards per attempt, plays that resulted in gains of 15 yards or more. He has one of the best arms in the National Football League. He has the ability to make throws that only 1% of quarterbacks have the ability to make. You also have Drake London, who's coming off the quietest 1,200-yard campaign that you will ever hear about. Bijan Robinson has already submitted himself as an elite running back. By the end of this season, he could prove to be the best running back in the league with how the Falcons are going to feature him more in the passing game. They also have a really good offensive line as well. Zach Robinson, I expect him to eventually be a candidate for a few head coaching jobs next year at the start of the offseason. He's a really good offensive coordinator. Raheem Morris brought him with him from the Rams. Anybody that you get from that Sean McVay coaching tree is automatic gold. So with him calling the plays, with the talent that Michael Penix has pushing the football downfield, with the personnel the Falcons have at receiver and running back, this is probably the most explosive offense in the league heading into this season. Number 7, I got Kansas City. Kansas City's offense, ever since they traded away Tyreek Hill, they haven't been what they used to as far as being able to generate a lot of explosive plays. But I believe we could see that change this season. They have a bunch of speed at receiver. You got Hollywood Brown, who missed the majority of last year due to an injury that he suffered in preseason. You got Xavier Worthy, the fastest receiver in the league at the moment. Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals. So there's a lot of talent and speed at the receiver position for Kansas City. Also, they improved their offensive line. They drafted Josh Simmons at the end of the first round in this past year's draft a few months ago. He's the closest thing that I've seen to Trent Williams as a draft prospect. That's been the biggest issue that has held back Kansas City's offense from being able to drop the bombs that they were dropping on teams when Patrick Mahomes first came into the league and took everybody by storm. Now teams are starting to play the Chiefs more conservatively with a bunch of too high coverages to take away those big plays downfield. But if you have a good offensive line that gives receivers more time to get open, you will see those explosive plays start to happen more frequently than what they've have come for Kansas City over the past few years. Isaiah Pacheco, I expect him to have a bounce back season as well. He missed a lot of time due to injury in 2024. Kansas City, we can see this offense look as good as what they've ever had with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Expect Patrick Mahomes to be right back in the MVP conversation, something that his name hasn't really been brought up in the past 2-3 seasons. Cincinnati, I got the Bengals at number 6. Why they are not higher is because their offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL. Outside of Orlando Brown, everybody else in that offensive line is not really that good. We'll see how Amarius Mims comes along at right tackle. But you got Joe Shiesty, you got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. It's just going to be a gun show when you play up against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to be a battle of, for 60 minutes every Sunday, can you outscore Cincinnati? Their defense isn't going to be that good. With the amount of plays that their offense is going to have, they're not really going to have too much time to run the football with Chase Brown, despite how good he is, unless he can be more of a factor in the pass game. This is the definition of a pass-happy team. For them to be able to have success this year, they're going to have to do the same thing they did last year, outscore everybody, put 35, 40 points on every defense that they go up against. So despite the offensive line not being good, the run game probably not going to be that consistent. With Joe Burrow and the weaponry that he has at receiver, they still get elevated at 6 because there still is a bunch of issues that you have to worry about. Not just Joe Burrow, but Jamar Chase. What happens once he gets the ball in space is something special. He turns into a running back. It's just so much that you have to account for when you go up against this Bengals offense. Starting my top 5, I got the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams have gone a little bit under the radar with how talented their offense is. Devontae Adams is not washed. Despite playing for both the Raiders and the Jets, who were not good offensively, he still was able to put together a 1,000-yard campaign. You put him with Puka Nacua, who takes some of that pressure off him. One of these guys is going to be open every time Matthew Stafford drops back the pass, which Matthew Stafford still is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The only question with Matthew Stafford is, can he stay healthy? The offensive line for the Rams is still pretty good. Not as good as what it was last year. You still got a few issues to sort out, but for the most part, their offensive line is decent. They got Kyren Williams at running back, who's probably like the 7th or 8th best running back in the league. If he can get rid of the fumbles and the turnovers, then maybe he's in the conversation as a top 5 running back by the end of this season. Sean McVay is still calling plays. He's still the Rams head coach. He's the best play caller in the NFL at the moment. When you go up against the Rams with the different ways that Sean McVay can attack you, it makes this offense difficult to game plan for. Matthew Stafford can make a bunch of throws that only Patrick Mahomes can make and a handful of other quarterbacks, despite him getting really close to retiring. He isn't slowing down at all. The Rams are still one of the best offenses in the league that nobody wants to play on a given Saturday or Sunday. Number 4, I got the Detroit Lions. Now, despite losing Ben Johnson, I still don't think that the Lions are going to experience that big of a drop-off. Their new offensive coordinator was already on this staff 2-3 seasons ago, so there's already a good amount of familiarity with him and the personnel that the Lions have, which they still do have their core group of guys. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got J-Mo, who's one of the best deep threats in the league. Sam Laporta is one of the 5 best tight ends in the game at the moment. You got the Sonic and Knuckles combination at running back with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, although Jahmyr Gibbs has kind of exceeded David Montgomery with him just being the more explosive of the two backs. But David Montgomery still is a really good power back. The Lions still do have a really good offensive line also with one of the best in the league. And Jared Goff, the past 2 years he's been in Detroit, he's played MVP football. He's had at least 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns or more during that span. So the Lions offense is still up there as one that not too many defenses are going to have answers for, even with the departure of Ben Johnson. The Chicago Bears, I have at number 3, which probably is going to be the biggest disagreement in the comment section due to Ben Johnson being unproven as a head coach. But I still believe that the play calling isn't going to change. If you're a good play caller, having a head coach shouldn't really affect that. You got more responsibilities, but the play calling is still going to be good. I still believe in Caleb Williams. I see him having a breakout season. He'll be the first Chicago Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in a season. He has a bunch of weapons to help him out. Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet at tight end. Colson Loveland is a great value brand version of Brock Bowers, has a very similar skill set to him at receiver. You're throwing to Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, very underrated. Luther Burden, who was a day 2 selection. And the most important thing is how the Bears have improved the offensive line. I don't know how good the ground game is going to be. DeAndre Swift isn't really that good. We'll see if Roschon Johnson finally gets a good amount of carries this year. I expect for the Bears to be a more pass-heavy team than what they will be as a balanced team because of what they have at receiver, what they have at tight end, and Caleb Williams in year 2 with a head coach who last year had one of the best passing offenses in the league. Ben Johnson, when he was calling plays for the Lions in 2024, they were second in passing yards per game. So I expect with the personnel and the talent that the Bears have on offense to be top 3 in the NFL. Number 2, I have the Philadelphia Eagles for obvious reasons. This is a stacked offense, best offensive line in the league. You got a top 5 quarterback in Jalen Hurts. You got arguably the best receiving duo in the league for Jalen Hurts to throw to, A.J. Brown and Smitty. Let's not forget about Saquon Barkley, who just ran for over 2,000 yards. So obviously the Eagles got to be number 2. The Ravens are at number 1. They're not as talented as what the Philadelphia Eagles are in terms of high-end talent everywhere. We know about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, which is why I have them at number 1. Derrick Henry is a future first ballot Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson is the most talented quarterback to ever put his hands on a football. With those two guys alone, they stress out opposing defenses because when you play against Lamar and Derrick Henry, you have to essentially change your scheme in only the span of 6-5 days because you just can't run a normal defense and contain Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. There's just so much that you have to worry about with those two in the backfield. It also helps that they signed DeAndre Hopkins in free agency. Yes, he's no longer in his prime, but as a third option behind Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman is coming off the best season of his career. DeAndre Hopkins should be able to benefit being a third option with a team that already has a bunch of good tight ends, also with Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. So DeAndre Hopkins should be able to benefit not being the focal point of our offense anymore, which makes him still a formidable addition for Baltimore. Baltimore also does have a really good offensive line, but with the threat of both Lamar and Derrick Henry, it makes the Ravens the number one offense that nobody in the NFL is going to have answers for in 2025. So give me your thoughts on my top 10 rankings of offenses that nobody in the NFL has answers for. If you disagree, all I ask is that you drop your top 10 rankings in the comment section below so we can compare.